We light our candles each week, one for Wiley Dobbs, who lives in prison in Georgia. We light one for our friends in Cuba, especially as they are facing so many complications from COVID-19 at the moment, with limitations on medical supplies that are available. We light a candle for all whose lives are impacted by COVID-19. We light a candle for all whose lives are impacted by violence in all of its forms. And we light a final candle for those who are unable to be here with us tonight, and for each of you. And Jody's gonna offer an invitation to us.
Pastor Peace, everybody. Here's Missy.
Thanks, Jody.
Might be a hard road, but we're gonna walk it with you. And we know you might have a heavy load, but we can carry some too. We will lift you up when they push you down. We will raise our voice and stand our ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but we're gonna walk it with you. And it looks like it might be a long night, but we ain't going nowhere. And we know it's gonna be a hard fight, but we will stay right here. We will shine a light in the darkest hour. We will face the man in the tallest tower. Well, it looks like it might be a long night, but we ain't going nowhere. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but we will follow your lead. And we know it might be a long time until the last one of us is freed. But we will hold on tight, stay by your side. We will be with you through this rocky ride. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but we will follow your lead. And it looks like it might be a hard road, but we're gonna walk it with you. And we know you might have a heavy load, but we can carry some too. We will lift you up when they push you down. We will raise our voice and stand our ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but we're gonna walk it with you.
Welcome all. We are so grateful you have joined us here today. This space is not only a place of joy and worship, but a place of community and hope. We come together to find peace, joy, air our anger to God, and to learn over and over again that we are beloved children of God, and there's nothing that can ever change that.
Please use this time to stand if you are able and call into the space those that are here usually who are not with us today. We especially welcome any who are here for the first time. Moment to let go of any uneasy feeling that you have and let your body, mind, and soul be fully present to take in words of love and forgiveness.
Slave
Once upon a time, there was a woman named Naomi, and she lived in the town called Bethlehem, which means house of bread. And for quite some time, it was a house of bread for her husband and her 2 sons, and all was going well, and then a terrible thing happened. There was a famine in the land, and there wasn't enough food for anyone in Bethlehem. And poor Naomi, she thought, what am I going to do? And she and Elimelech decided, oh, we're going to have to go to the land of Moab, because there, it sounds like they have food, and we'll be able to feed our sons. So, it was so sad they had nothing. They took off on a long journey, and they made that journey, and then they found themselves there in the land of Moab, and things were going really well for a while. And then a terrible thing happened. Naomi's husband, Elimelech, died. But she had her 2 sons, and her 2 sons grew up big and strong, and they married 2 wonderful Moabite women. One whose name was Orpah, and one whose name was Ruth. And all was going very well for this family together in this new land. Until, again, a terrible thing happened. Naomi's sons, Mahlon and Chilion, they died. And it left Ruth and Orpah widows, just like Naomi was a widow. And Naomi said, what am I going to do? I can't live here as a widow. No one will take care of me. I'm going to have to go back to my homeland of Bethlehem. And so Naomi started making the journey. And as she started out, here was Orpah and Ruth following right behind her. And as she made the journey, she stopped and she looked at them and she said, what are you doing? You can't go with me. Well, I don't know how I'm going to even feed myself. I couldn't feed you too. You need to stay here in your homeland. Here you will be able to marry again and have families. But me, I can't offer you any hope. So Orpah and Ruth, they kissed Naomi. And then Orpah decided to do what Naomi said was the best thing, to stay in her homeland. Ruth, no. Ruth said to her, do not press me to leave you, nor send me away from where you are. For where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your God will be my God, your people my people, and where you live, I will live, and where you die, I will die. So sure enough, Naomi had a companion in Ruth, and they made the journey together. The long journey back to Bethlehem. And you know, Naomi was so upset that Ruth was going that she didn't say one word to her the whole journey. They got to the edge of the village, and the women of the village saw them coming and ran out, and they recognized Naomi, and they said, oh, Naomi, you've come back. Welcome back. And Naomi said, oh, this is not good news that I'm back. Look, I left Bethlehem with my arms full. I had my 2 sons, and I had my husband, and now they have died, and I come back empty and nothing to eat. Ruth heard that in that land of Bethlehem, why, it was harvest time, and anyone who wasn't new to the community and a stranger, while they could go right in the field and start gleaning what the leftovers sure enough, Ruth did. And she brought it back to Naomi, and she said, look, Naomi, we're going to be able to eat. And so Ruth and Naomi went into the field, and Boaz, who was out in the field, who was the owner of the field, he saw them out there, and he said, okay, all you farm hands, don't you bother these women. Don't you bother them at all. Let them get whatever they need. For this is Naomi, and this is her daughter-in-law, Ruth. So sure enough, they had hope again because they had food again. And then there was this great party for the harvest when everybody got together to celebrate all the goodness that had happened. And sure enough, during that party, Ruth, why, she danced with Boaz, and they had such a good time together. And then Ruth whispered to Boaz and said, Boaz, would you marry me? And sure enough, he said yes, and so they had a wedding, and it was a beautiful celebration. And then later, why, Ruth, she had a baby. And for the celebration, all the women of the village got together. And Ruth handed that grandbaby to Naomi. And Ruth said, and all the women of the village said, oh, look at you, Naomi. You came back into this village empty-handed. And now, look at you. Your arms are full of new life. Why, Ruth is more to you than 7 sons. God has given you blessing. You will stand up and we'll say our prayers. Thank you, God, for giving us Ruths to help us along the journey. Thank you for the hope that Naomi and Ruth shows. Thank you for making the journey with us and giving us new life. Amen.
I've been asked to teach you guys a song that I wrote, and I have my response partner right here, so I'll start by singing the song. And then I'll teach you the response. Okay. I am new, I am the acorn, waiting for the sun. I am young, I am the sapling, my life has just begun. I am old, I am the oak tree, I embrace the sky. I am me, I am everything. I am the sun and the moon and the stars. I am new, I am the acorn, waiting for the sun. I am young, I am the sapling, my life has just begun. I am old, I am the oak tree, I embrace the sky. I am me, I am everything. I am the sun and the moon and the stars. I am the sun and the moon and the stars. And now I will teach you the call and response with my partner here, Abby. I am new, I am the acorn, waiting for the sun. I am new, I am the acorn, waiting for the sun. I am young, I am the sapling, my life has just begun. I am young, I am the sapling, my life has just begun. I am old, I am the oak tree, I embrace the sky. I am old, I am the oak tree, I embrace the sky. I am me, I am me, I am everything. I am everything. I am the sun and the moon and the stars. I am the sun and the moon. the sun and the moon and the stars. I am the sun and the moon and the stars.
We join together in prayer each week to name the moments and experiences that cause our hearts to be heavy, as well as those moments and experiences that fill our hearts with joy and delight. We hold these prayers together with each other and with God, and remember that we are not alone in our sorrows and in our joys. We are held and accompanied by the Holy One, whose love will never, ever let us go. We are held and accompanied by this circle as we serve as tangible reminders to each other of God's love and compassion in our midst. We recognize that we carry prayers within us that we can't even form words around yet. The Holy One in this community also carry those prayers with you. So I invite you to stand as you're able. Rebecca will have a microphone to bring around so that everyone can hear the prayers that you would like to share with this community this week. And if you're able, I'm going to invite you to stand up, because this is going to be a prayer that has us moving a little bit. Maybe get to where you have a little bit of arm space. So we remember together that God's love and God's presence surrounds us. So this is going to be a body prayer, naming the presence of God, holding us, sustaining us, and carrying us. So the first movement is just your arms open this way. And the words are, well, let me do the movements first. The first one is here. The next one is here, just arms open wide. Then to your heart, and then to the ground, okay? The words are, God is here. 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 Amen.
While we're here, we'll plant our garden. While we're here, we'll build our home. While we're here, we'll spread our table with the food this land has grown. Though we know we're exiles, we will never be alone. We will make this land our home while we're here.
from the book of Ruth. Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you, Naomi. Where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God, and where you die, I will die, and there will be buried. May God do thus and so to me and more as well, if even death parts me from you." And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. I know we're supposed to practice humility and all that kind of good stuff, but I did want to name that I did win the championship for rock, paper, scissors at the... This was the winning move. I thought we were praying, but my award was that I got to be at the front of the line for lunch for the camp food. Yeah. So I am still hoping for some other awards come my way. But it was fun. So friends, this is July, and it is not long before I do that thing called retiring. And so I have a few notes that I want to just mark, things that you already know, things that you know, many of you who've been here for a long time, you even know the history of. But I wanted to just make note of them again. You know, it was December of 2001 with the drumbeats of war that were around our entire country after 9/11 attacks. And there was that small group of us that met at Kim and Stan's house to worship together and to explore the possibilities of being a congregation with the core affirmation from Micah 6:8, that doing justice and loving mercy are intimately tied to walking humbly with God. So we shaped our vision around distinctives. We wanted to be doing less programs and more about deepening our spiritual practices that bolsters our redemptive work in the world, wherever that might be for any of us. We wanted our corporate worship to be celebration and to be central to our life together, with weekly communion and encouragement and participation from children and youth, like we have had today. And we wanted to utilize all kinds of art, music and drama and dance and poetry and visual arts. And we did not want to own a building, although we have benefited mightily from those who do, like our sister church, Land of the Sky, as Suzanne has noted. We wanted our leadership to practice something that we hadn't experienced a whole lot of in our ministry, which was a team approach. We wanted to practice a power with model rather than a power over model of leadership. And we had a word for it. We called it empowerment, an empowerment model. But we started using that word back in seminary days, and we weren't ever sure what that exactly meant. But anyway, we wanted that. It sounded good. Though most of us, what we really wanted was to stretch out the leadership to all of the members and not stretch it up for just a few. We wanted to live into being what the New Testament names as the priesthood of the believer, where we are all called, and our baptism is our ordination to our unique work and calling in the world. And in those first years, the co-pastors were not paid. Then it was little by little. Early in our history, one fun job description for being a co-pastor at Circle emerged with these requirements: many years of experience in peace and justice work with the ability to engage the congregation in such work, effective in providing pastoral care, religious education to all ages, provide creative and innovative worship experiences, be an engaging and inspiring preacher, engage a congregation in interfaith work and international partnerships, and be able to set up chairs and stack them as needed. And for compensation, medical and dental, none. Retirement, none. Workers' comp, none. Long-term contract, none. Travel allowance, none. Potluck suppers, yes! Great, with lentils guaranteed every time. It's been a journey with many changes along the way. We knew, as Ken wrote so well, that serious thinking about Jesus and authentic worship of God is done on the road in the midst of attempts of faithful living. We called it an experiment. So that gave us, it felt like it gave us a lot of breathing room and expansiveness to call ourselves an experiment. So our failures would be learning places rather than reasons to give up. In the first years of Circle of Mercy, we played around with self-descriptions of how to identify us. There were many really good suggestions, where faith meets compassion and justice embraces peace, proclaiming the gospel of radical justice, courageous peace, and extravagant welcome. And someone said, we're a radically relativist church with more punch than the Unitarians, less patience than the Quakers, and better potlucks than the Presbyterians. I'm very glad that we settled on an ecumenical congregation rooted in Baptist and congregational traditions. That's a little B Baptist and a little C congregation, because it connects us with this great long history of the radical wing of the church. So who was drawn to our little circle in those beginning years? Bland Minton said we were burn victims, people who'd been burned by the church in one way or another and were seeking healing. Mark Mullinax, where'd he go? Where is he now? They're right here. Said that this community was the last chance place for organized religion for him. Is that right? And but I'm wondering, Mark, if what you could say now is that you've discovered that we are hopelessly disorganized religion, and you're still with us. That's good. Perhaps we could say that some of us were refugees, though I want to take great care to not in any way compare ourselves to the crisis of real refugees who are without food or shelter or a future. But perhaps what we could say, metaphorically, is that we were religious refugees from places called church that had become difficult for many of us to call home. Some of us knew heart famine. It had left us feeling bereft, without sustenance for body or soul. And I can say that I found myself identifying oftentimes with Naomi, when life hadn't been working out quite like I'd imagined. I was one of the very fortunate and very few Baptist women ministers in my pioneering days. And I was always able to find a place to live out my calling. I served on pastoral staff in one church and then as a pastor of another. They were really good communities of faith. But I found myself unqualified and inadequate to meet the demands in the traditionally structured churches. And I discovered how complicated it is to be a pastoral leader. I knew a lot more when I was in seminary about that. But being a pastoral leader, I ran into so many conflicting needs and desires from the people in the congregation. And I also found myself being the focus of not only the good, but an unbelievable amount of the ill. It was too much for someone like me. So I resigned my position as a pastor, and we came to the mountains of North Carolina, and instead of being a pastor, I became a prison chaplain, which is much easier work. But somewhere in the midst of that, like many people who have known loss and disappointment, I discovered, like you have, we can also still carry longings and dreams. One of them took hold. And I think it was because I had really incredibly great dreaming partners in Ken and Joyce. And I trusted them more than I trusted myself at that time. They were my Ruth-like companions of hope and dreams. So we decided to start a church with an emphasis on practicing new forms of power arrangements and with a vision to live into Micah 6:8. And we wanted it to be a circle to embody our vision of us all being leaders and in the circle, and a place for all the gifts to emerge from that circle. And we wanted it to be a place of mercy, because it seemed in short supply in our world. As founders, we had our losses and griefs to bear, not only being a part of conflicted and failed communities from our own histories, but friends, we were also leaders of some of those communities. You all should have checked our references. We needed mercy, and we longed to give it too. And so, as we started this experiment, I thought, well, this could be a different way to be church, and it could be fun, and surely adventurous, and at the very least, a learning experience. Don't we lean into that? Like Naomi, I carried my griefs and losses, and I stepped into the journey. Like Naomi, the losses and deaths from my past made me feel at times like I could not locate God. It also made me afraid of trying something new. Fear of failure, because I'd been smack in the middle of plenty of those failures. I identified with Naomi, her griefs, and carrying that loss. But there she was, realizing her two daughter-in-laws were also in terrible grief. Naomi couldn't imagine how she was going to take care of herself, much less these two women who would be strangers in her homeland. Where Naomi, even in her own homeland, would feel being the outcast as a widow. Naomi was sinking into resignation. But Ruth carried grief, of course, but she carried something else as well. She carried hope. Where you go, I will go. It was a bond born of grief, and a bond strengthened by love, and an astounding bond between a Moabite and an Israelite. No one could have imagined that this story would have been retained and passed down to us. Ruth, the Moabite. She had a daring ability to step into uncertainty without a roadmap. For Ruth, death was not the last word. Where did that come from within her? Surely a spirit-born hope. So she was the one who followed Naomi with goodness and mercy. Years ago, one of our youth was describing what Circle of Mercy people meant to her, and she said, "You know, we're like that story of someone handing one stick to a person and asked, 'Break this stick,' and it's very easy to break. But then they were handed many sticks. They were all put together in a bundle. And they were asked, 'Here, now break this bundle of sticks.' And it couldn't be done. And it made a strength that was unbreakable." And she said that story, and then she said, "Hearing the stories and adventures of people in our circle inspires me and helps me to remember the way I want to go in my life." Our circle has been given a bundle of strong Naomis and Ruths. Our stories of faith fortify and strengthen us. And the sharing of this journey, that is the dream come true. We discover that even in our Naomi times, there are Ruths who walk with us. And we discover a presence that brings solace in sickness or in failings, in crushing griefs and losses, or during unbendable problems. We know again the power of catching courage from each other. And we discover that sometimes we are the hope-filled Ruths to others, companions whose presence makes all the difference. In the genealogy of Jesus that we have in the New Testament, there's all these names, and one of them is Ruth, the outsider who binds us to the inside heart of holy hope, and with the unimaginable story of new life emerging from the ruins and heartaches. Like Ruth, Jesus said, "I won't leave you. I'll be with you always." In such blessed assurance, we continue this daring journey. This last week when Sydney was practicing in the afternoon for the talent show that night, she was practicing her flips and all of these unbelievable things that I would like to say I taught her, but not so much. But after many of her going through the routine over and over again, I said, "I think you got it. It's good. I think we can have a rest now." And she said, "You can't ever practice enough." When we come to this table, we are practicing again. We are practicing the story. This unbelievable story of how life comes out of death, hope comes out of heartbreak and hopelessness. Strength comes out of weakness. And once again, we practice this story given to us by Jesus, who lived it, and invited his disciples and followers to live it as well, taking it into their being, so much so that they could do it. They could live this story of liberating love. And it flowed as natural as the waters flow from the sea. And Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he said, This is my body which is broken for you. Take and eat. Take it into yourselves and let it become part of you. And then he also took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he blessed it, and he said, This is my body which is poured out for you. This is the cup of forgiveness. This is the cup of grace, and there is plenty for all. Jesus invites us to partake again. Practice this story until it becomes alive in us again. Is there anyone who needs So friends, look around this room and see who we are. We're going to need each other this week. But go from this place knowing that you have companions for this journey. And you have the companion, Jesus the Christ, who goes with us. Go in peace.
Definitely.